This is a Fairmount about Fairmount, the new Visions Civic League podcast. Hear from guests that matter to you. Real people, real talk, real fast.
Hello, neighbors. I'm excited because today I get to talk with Tom Barbour, who is a candidate for Richmond's Commonwealth's attorney. And so, Tom, I have a question for you. What should the community know today?
Well, they should know that I am running for Commonwealth's attorney in the city. My name is Tom Barbour. I'm a trial attorney. I live in Church Hill here in East End with my wife, who's a much better trial attorney than I am, and our two daughters, one who's about to be 3 years old and one who's about to be 1 year old. Before that, I was a prosecutor in the Richmond Commonwealth Attorney's Office. I was a line prosecutor, which when I just prosecuted cases like anyone would. But I was also a senior policy advisor on issues of public safety and criminal justice reform to then Commonwealth Attorney Mike Herring. I had the opportunity to do that type of work because I came to Richmond and I came to the legal practice as a different type of young lawyer. I had been a captain in the United States Marine Corps. I'd served in Iraq and Afghanistan as a foreign military advisor, which means that I had policed people. Anything you see Richmond Police Department doing, I have personally done. And I have learned what works, but also what the limits of that type of activity really are in terms of public safety. And in addition to having the opportunity to go to University of Virginia for my law degree, I had earned an MBA at the Darden School of Business as well. So I was positioned to do, management and change management and operations within that office, and that was something that Mike allowed me to do. When he left to McGuire Woods, I left to form my own practice. I've been running that for, about 8 years now. I center my trial work in criminal defense, but I also engage in litigation that I think tends to lead people into the criminal justice system. So I'm always on the tenant side in landlord-tenant cases. I'm always on the employee side in employment litigation, and I also prosecute wage theft for people. I am running for Commonwealth's attorney because I believe we're missing some opportunities for public safety, and I can talk to you all about that. And if folks would like to connect with us or learn more about me or my campaign, you can check us out at tomrvaca.com.
Now, I can guarantee you there's somebody watching this now that's quietly thinking in their mind, I have no idea what a Commonwealth's attorney is. So for those that don't know, what is it and why should they care?
Thank you for asking that. I usually also provide that up front, and I've forgotten to this morning because, no, I mean, for most people in the city, you'll just never come into contact with this office. I mean, if you're voting for council, you might be coming into contact with council, or they're making decisions that affect your lives every day. But the Commonwealth Attorney's Office is a little differently situated. People probably know this office much more readily through either their own experience or references in pop culture as the district attorney. If you've watched Law and Order or CSI or any kind of crime drama, it's really the office of the district attorney. We're the only Commonwealth in the United States of Virginia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts. There you go. Those are your 4 Commonwealths that even call it the Commonwealth's attorney. The rest of them call it the district attorney. And it's because we have created this office within the Virginia Constitution, and the Virginia Constitution calls it the Commonwealth's attorney. State code empowers this office to prosecute all felony crimes, all misdemeanor crimes within its discretion. And then what's interesting, I think, is any law violation, civil or criminal, that might include a penalty of incarceration or a fine of $500 or more. And that last grant of authority is pretty expansive and gives the Commonwealth Attorney's Office the opportunity, if it so wishes, to engage in the city on issues that I think are being neglected, such as code enforcement or environmental enforcement or criminal wage theft.
So you mentioned there's some things that you want to see changed. What's one of the biggest ones, and why do you feel like you are the right person to address it?
I think one of the biggest issues affecting the East End, especially, is really consistent, intractable gun violence. We've got, if you look at, the period of time in the last 6 years and compare that to the prior 6 years, we're actually seeing an increase in average homicides per year of about 24%. Richmond right now is going through a significant uptick in gun violence in the city, especially in our East End. Over 30% increase in aggravated assaults, which is the Richmond Police Department's term for shootings. So much so that we've seen our mayor's office announce that they're going to form an office specifically focused on gun violence in the city.
Mhm.
Um, this gun violence is so consistent, so intractable, but we're not actually getting any better at preventing it or prosecuting it. Two examples there. Um, our homicide clearance rate hovers around 50%. That means that only about 50% of homicides ever actually even end in an arrest,
Mhm.
let alone a conviction. And for conviction rates, you're talking about 60 to 70% only on those cases. So you end up with a total accountability rate of about 40%, and that means that people are literally getting away with murder.
Mhm.
We also have a tool that could be used to prevent shootings, that could be used to deny dangerous people access to firearms. It's called Virginia's Red Flag Law. This is a civil petition, not a criminal prosecution, but a civil petition that a Commonwealth Attorney's Office can initiate to ask the court to order that someone judged to be a substantial risk to themselves or others by possession of a firearm be denied access to firearms. And that order can last for 6 months indefinitely, so long as those conditions are present, and it can be enforced by search warrant. I think I am the person to address this gun violence because I'm not just a legal professional, I'm a public safety professional. I've been a captain of Marines. I have I have recruited, developed, managed, and worked with and kept safe my own intelligence sources in Iraq and Afghanistan to do intelligence-driven operations to keep areas safe and free from harm. I know exactly what it means to be uh, scared for your life, to be in a place where you're around guns all the time and how that affects you personally. And so I think I have a sort of unique insight as a candidate into this problem. And I know generally what works and what doesn't to manage that violent risk that's happening in our communities.
Mhm.
And I can take that background and I can pair it with a legal education and a legal experience that would allow me to work with our law enforcement partners to really drive up our homicide clearance rates, drive down our shootings, and get gun violence under control in partnership with our mayor's office and our city council.
Yeah. Now, I imagine maybe the same person listening, maybe another one, they may be now thinking, wait a minute, I didn't think the next election was until 2028. And, that's the thing we see often is people aren't aware of local elections. So why should people care? Why should they even go out to vote for Commonwealth's attorney?
So this office effectively controls and drives priorities around issues of how we keep our family, friends, and neighbors safe in our city. It is, for all intents and purposes, the quarterback of the criminal justice system in Richmond. And what plays you're calling, what systems you're running, really drives outcomes, really affects people who are subject to these kinds of crimes and risks in Richmond. Truth be told, if I'm talking to another civic association, they're not asking me about gun violence. They're not asking me about break-ins. They're not asking me about these motels that are cropping up and becoming a source of all kinds of crime in neighborhoods. They're asking me about traffic safety, which is also a viable concern. But if you're living in the East End and you're wondering what we're going to do to get gun violence and shootings under control, this office drives policy on that. I think it's wonderful that we're going to have an additional office within the branch of the mayor's governing system in our city to look at this issue. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a Commonwealth's attorney who is engaged on these issues with law enforcement and community, you're not really going to make much headway. So it matters a great deal.
Now, we've only touched on a little bit. There's so much more that I'm sure you could say. So how can the community connect further and learn more about who you are and what you hope to do?
So as I mentioned at the top, you can go ahead and take a look at our website. It's Tom RVA CA, or you can just Google me in Richmond, Tom Barbour, and you'll find us. There's a 90-second launch video on there. If you've got a minute and a half to spend and learn more about my story and why the Commonwealth Attorney's Office matters and what we can do to keep everybody safe in a humane and effective way. And we'd love to hear from you.
And any final words for the community?
I just really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all. Thank you all for having me, and thanks for your time, Paul.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you. Always appreciate getting a chance to learn more about what drives someone and what they hope to do. So, yeah, thank you for your willingness to serve the community and for helping us to be neighbors helping neighbors.
My honor.